pull transition. Alright, having our pages set up, let's go ahead and add a few more details fields to Strapi. As you recall from the previous tutorial, we have a menu item collection type, and each of the menu items has a name, a photo, and a price. Let's add two more fields to our menu type. To add two more fields, we need to go to our content type builder, menu item, a text field, a long text, and we'll call it description. And we also need to add a new JSON field, which we will call details. Let's finish, save, Strapi will restart. Let's go ahead and update details for our salad. For example, details field is going to look something like this. It's just going to be an array of objects with the key value pairs, and for description, we'll just insert a description of our salad. It's just a text from Wikipedia. Let's save it, and this is it with Strapi. Now we need to listen to on-click events for each of those tiles in our app, and when an on-click event is registered, we need to click on a tile and redirect it to the appropriate details page. As you can see in our code right now, we have a menu grid, which is our body. To our menu grid, I have added a gesture detector. Gesture detector is a widget that detects gestures. Today we're interested only on tap, and when we tap, we need to show our details. Now, when showing our details, we do not have any way of telling on which exactly item did we click. Did we click on a salad? Did we click on a burger? Did we click on an ice cream? On a soup? So let's add an item ID. If you recall, previously I have added an ID to menu item data, so we already have ID in our menu item data class. That ID is an integer, so let's add an int ID to our details page. Specifying it as final is kind of specifying it as const in JavaScript, which means that this ID will never change after the widget is initialized. And then let's go ahead and say required it ID. Required this ID, sorry. And for the most part, we're done with our stateful widget. However, one little thing that I would like to do is to show my ID in our details page. For this, I'm going to use a widget.id. Now, how do we pass our ID from our menu grids on tap to there? Well, AutoRouter, as you recall, waits for us to pass in a route to it. So instead of a details page, we will have to pass a details route. As we have added ID to our details page, we now have to rerun our build runner so that our router.gr.dot will get regenerated. After this, I can push to AutoRouter a details route. If we were to go to details route in our router.gr.dot, we can see that now we have a required int ID, same as our details page. If you were to replace details page with something like details homepage in the future, all you would need to do is to match its parameters final int ID. Then you would change your details page to details homepage, set your root name to be the same, and this is how you would be able not to break your existing code when updating some widget. But for now, all we need to do is pass in our ID, which is going to be menu item.id. If we were to save it and click on a salad, it would go with details page 1. If I were to click on an ice cream, it would go with details page 2. So as you can see, now we can pass in the ID of a food item we have clicked on onto our details page. This way we can find an item by ID, fetch it, and then show it on the details page. So let's do that now. A few minutes ago, our Strapi's menu item gained two fields, description and details. Details is a JSON list and description is a string. Let's set those to menu item data. I can write a list of details, and Dart, being an optionally typed language, will decide that this is actually a list of type dynamic. Okay, so I have added another argument, initial photo URL, and I have set state to menu item data. For the hero animation, we do have another video on our channel on hero animation, so go watch that to figure out what this all is about. But it isn't really relevant for our tutorial. What is relevant that I have added a new async function fetch data, which is empty for now. I have added to our init state function. Then I have a build method in here where we'll take in this item and save it into a variable. If item is null, we will return a text of not found for the title and item widget ID not found for the body. Otherwise, we will return item details widget. If we were to go to item details, which is in widgets, menu item details, I can see that we take in a menu item data item, and then we will show a menu image. Menu image, it's just a widget that shows us a hero of an image.network. Consider it just image.network. Then we have just some padding with some text of item.name, item description, once again text, and build details function, which will return us a listed widget. You can use ... to append whichever this build details function returns to our list view to our children. And what we will do is we'll check that item details is not null and item details runtime type is list. If this is okay to render, then we will render it. Otherwise, we will return just an empty list. Then I can go ahead and map item details to just a padded container with a row of key on one side, then spacer, which is just going to occupy as much space as it can get without squishing other widgets, and value of value. So the details widget will be just waiting for menu item data to show it. We now need to get menu item. We already have a menu items repository in our repositories menu items, so let's fetch data from there. We have a get menu items function to fetch all of our menu items. So let's copy that, paste it here, and let's call it get menu item. We need to pass in one parameter, int ID. We need to make a request to menu items /id, and this should return us our menu items data. We still need our options of headers of authorization. We do still need to populate our photo, and let's see what is being returned to us. What data equals to response.data, and we will return an empty list because otherwise it shows us an error. Let's add a debug breakpoint in here and see what is being returned. One last thing that I forgot to do is to call it in our details fetch data. So let's go ahead and say var items equals to menu items repository dot get menu item. We know that our ID is in widget.id, so let's get a menu item from there. And then if we were to click on a salad, for example, I can see that a breakpoint worked. So let's see what's in our data. As you can see now, our data is not an array, but instead one JSON object with fields ID and attributes. Previously, when we were fetching menu items or using a menu items endpoint, our response was a list of objects with ID and attributes. Now it is just one single object. If we were to expand our attributes, we can see that we have still the same attributes: name, created at, description, which we have added, details, which is a list of 2 items of key and value. So we'll use that in our UI. We're already using it in our UI, remember. We're just taking in this list and we're placing the key on the left side and the value on the right side. And our photo. Since data is now one object as opposed from the list that it was in the previous response, we can still reuse from Strapi list. All we need to do is just have a list of one object, and then if items is empty, we know that we did not get any menu items. One more thing that I forgot: in get menu item, we don't want a list, we just need a menu item data or null if this menu item was not found. So if items is empty, we'll return null. Otherwise, we will return items.first, which will take the first item, which is our data, just deserialized into menu item data, and it will return it. Next order of business is to edit from Strapi list. Remember, we have added description and details to menu item data, but we have not deserialized them yet. Luckily, from what we have seen, all we need to do is just say description. We need to add it to a constructor. And then we need to say description is going to be ATTRs of description. So as we can see, attributes, which are ATTR variable holds, value, a description, and details, children. So we can just reference them like this. And this is how we will be getting our description and details. Since we can fetch the details and since we do know how to render them, let's go to our details.dot for item. Item equals to item. Item, remember, just a local variable, and get me new item is also future, so we can just await it. And then if mounted, we will re-render by calling setState. Let's restart our app. If I were to click on a salad now, we can see that our breakpoint is called, which I'll just get rid of. And here we go, our salad, our details, and I think this is it. We now can show you the details of our salad, a JSON payload, and for all of those, I didn't fill in the rest, but like you can fill it in using Strapi. So for example, I can fill in something like a burger, description. Both description and details are optional, so if we were to fill in a burger, save it, go to burger, we have a description. So this is how you can update your app's contents, and this is how you can build your menu items details for your mobile app. I think this is it for now. Consider reading this article if you need notes on dollarbackend.com/blog. And this is it for today. Next time we will be adding a card and I will show you how to place an order. That's it. Bye.